In 1964, alongside the popular Addams Family, another show about a family made up of kind-hearted monsters had premiered. If you didn't know already, then this show was the Munsters, which gave quite a tough competition to its contemporary, the Addams Family. Today, we explore the world of the Munsters and discover what made the series resonate so well with its audience, even decades later. Hang on to your chariot, it'll be a spooky yet heartwarming ride. Before we go into our explanation though, we do have a small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you very much. Let's begin. The creation of America's first monster family, the Munsters. The Munsters is an American sitcom that depicts the home life of a Transylvanian American family consisting of kind and warm-hearted monsters. Living in 1313 Mockingbird Lane in the fictional city of Mockingbird Heights, the show followed an ongoing gag about the family made up of odd-looking members who considered themselves to be just like any other American family. The whole family's appearance, except for the niece Marilyn, was based on Universal Studios' classic monster films that aired during the 1930s and 40s, so the likes of Herman Munster is based on the iconic Frankenstein's monster, featured in the 1931 Frankenstein film. Due to the show being jointly produced by Universal, the Munsters didn't have to face any issues regarding the copyright of the designs. The Munsters primarily satirized the character archetypes that were quite common to the family sitcom genre, such as the well-meaning father, the nurturing mother, the eccentric live-in relative, the naive teenager, and the precocious child. The show also didn't refrain from making several references to the popular sitcoms of the time, such as in episode 45, Operation Herman.
No, a thing like that is up to the father. Anyone who's watched Father Knows Best for 9 years ought to know that.
All right. But Donna Reed always handles these things on her show, you know.
Actor Al Lewis, who played Grandpa, described the ethos of the show to be no matter how one may look, one can still have a heart of gold underneath. The changes that came to be in the civil rights era were thoroughly reflected in the Munsters, which rings true today, such as when in 2020, the speech given by Herman to his son Eddie in the episode Eddie's Nickname became viral.
The lesson I want you to learn is it doesn't matter what you look like. You can be tall or short, or fat, or thin, or ugly, or handsome, like your father. You can be black, or yellow, or white. It doesn't matter. What does matter is the size of your heart and the strength of your character.
Animator Bob Clampett first suggested the idea of following the daily hijinks of a family made up of comical monsters to Universal Studios and then developed it as a cartoon series from 1943 to 1945. Still, there was no progress made to the project until 1963, when The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends writers Chris Hayward and Alan Burns pitched a similar idea to Bob Clampett. Writer Alan Burns later revealed that they had stolen the idea from Charles Addams' New Yorker comics and gained support because Universal owned the copyright for the Frankenstein and Dracula characters from the movies. This proposal soon reached writers Ed Haas and Norm Liebman, who finally wrote a pilot script based on the idea named Love the Monster. Numerous executives believed the series to be better suited for animation, but a few also voiced opinions for a live-action adaptation. This led to 1964 when MCA Television finally filmed a live-action pilot in colour for CBS. Actors Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis, who had recently completed the series Car 54, Where Are You?, along with boasting great chemistry, were cast in February 1964 for Herman Munster and Grandpa Count Dracula respectively. This pilot also featured Beverly Owen in the role of Herman's niece, Marilyn, Joan Marshall in the role of Herman's wife, then called Phoebe instead of Lily, and Happy Nate Derman as Herman's son Eddie. By April 1964, a second pilot was ordered where Yvonne DiCarlo replaced Joan as Herman's wife, who was renamed Lily. The third pilot saw another recasting, but this time it was for the role of Eddie, who was then portrayed by Butch Patrick. CBS showed preference for the third pilot, but again ordered a fourth one to feature Eddie as being less of a spoiled child. The series was then produced by Bob Mosher and Joe Connolly, who were all well known for writing numerous episodes of Amos and Andy and then creating the show Leave It to Beaver. During the filming of the first season, the makeup for Herman, Lily and Grandpa was adjusted, such as reducing a large white streak in Lily's hair in the later episodes. Her necklace earlier had featured a bat instead of a star, and her eyebrows were made to be more angled. Grandpa's makeup makeup was also quite exaggerated, which included heavier eyebrows, while Herman's face was widened to provide a more confused and less human-like appearance. Fred Gwynne also added a stutter in moments where Herman was angry or wanted to make a point, and also frequently left his mouth wide open, which added to Herman being a goofy and less frightening figure. Bud Westmore perfected the makeup for the series, as she had already pioneered numerous makeup effects as well as Universal's monster designs. The Munsters family mansion was in a decaying Second Empire Victorian Gothic style and was located on the Universal Studios backlot. The mansion was originally made along with two other houses on Stage 12, the largest soundstage of Universal Studios, from the 1946 film So Goes My Love. After the filming was completed, the sets were put into storage until 1950, when the sets were reassembled once again in Colonel Street. The three houses were featured together in numerous movies and television shows, which included Leave It to Beaver. The main home was redressed as the Munsters home in 1964, along with a stone wall being added around the property. The same house was later used as the home of a family in Shirley, which aired on NBC from 1979 to 1980. After 1981, all the houses on Colonel Street were moved from the north end to their present-day location, and the Munsters mansion was then reused in the Coach television series that ran from 1989 to 1987, given a remodel for use in the Desperate Housewives series that ran from 2004 to 2012. The interior location of the Munster mansion, which was filled with dust, smoke and cobwebs, was filmed on sound stages 30 and 32 at Universal Studios. Part of the house would get damaged quite often as part of a running gag where Herman threw tantrums or became clumsy, though this damage wouldn't last much longer. The Munsters' fourth episode, Rockabye Munster, featured Lily buying a hot rod as well as a hearse from a used car dealership, which was customized together into becoming the family's ride, the Munster Coach, and was given to Herman as a birthday present. Ton Daniel designed the Munster Coach along with Grandpa's ride Dragula, which then auto customizer George Barris built exclusively for the series. The Munster Coach was a hot rod built on a lengthened 1926 Ford Model T chassis along with a custom hearse body. It was 18 feet long and cost almost $20,000 to build. Barris also built the Dragula, a dragster built from a real coffin that was used by Grandpa to win back the Munster Coach after Herman lost it in a race. The Munsters' instrumental theme song was described by writer John Burlingame as Bernard Herrmann meets Dwayne Eddy, which was composed by composer-arranger Jack Marshall and even got nominated for a Grammy Award in 1965. Co-producer Bob Mosher wrote lyrics to the music, but unfortunately that never made the airing on CBS. In 1965, the Munsters were also nominated for the Golden Globe Awards in the category of Best Television Series, but unfortunately they lost to The Rogues. The series then received several TV Land Award nominations in the 21st century, which were given to shows that had aired in the past, and one of these included a nomination for Herman Munster as the most uninsurable driver.
A cure for baldness.
Is it really gone?
Look in the mirror and see.
Introducing the Munster family members. The father of the family is Herman Munster, the creation of Dr. Frankenstein in Germany around the mid to late 1800s, and he was portrayed by Fred Gwynne in the 1964 series. Following his creation, Herman was taken in by a British family that gave him his name. Herman soon moved to Transylvania a few years later, where he met and then married his wife Lily Munster. The couple soon moved to America in hopes of creating wealth and settled in the small Washington town of Mockingbird Heights. Once there, they moved into the Munster mansion located on 1313 Mockingbird Lane with Lily's father. Soon after this, Herman served in World War II by joining the US Army. Herman worked at the Gateman, Goodbury and Graves Funeral Home, which he called the Parlour. Despite his giant size and enormous strength that easily prevents him from facing any harm, Herman is fun-loving and childish to the extent of almost being naive and believing anything he's told. Count Sam Dracula, affectionately called Grandpa by the rest of the Munster family, is an immortal vampire with magic and science-related skills. Portrayed by the powerful comedic actor Al Lewis, Grandpa was born in Transylvania in 1367. He had been married around 167 times, probably due to him outliving every one of his wives, yet he still visits their ghosts and/or undead corpses quite often and on good terms. Among all of his wives, his favourite was his 13th, the late Grandma Dracula, mother to Lily Munster alongside Marilyn's mother, Aunt Count Lester Dracula. Grandpa had several other kids owing to his many marriages, but the only child he seemingly disliked was Lester due to his failures and poor money management. Grandpa possesses the ability to shapeshift into a bat as well as a wolf with the use of a pill that he'd created, and practices the creation of potions and spells, the duration of which is quite dicey. He uses the cellar of the Munster mansion as his own personal laboratory. Lily Munster is the mother of the family, portrayed by Yvonne de Carlo, and she's the wife of Herman. Born to Count Sam Dracula and his late wife in 1605 in Transylvania, Lily is a beautiful woman with the external appearance of a female vampire, often sporting a long, delicate white dress with a bat necklace and a bad luck charm. Lily would often scold Herman for his actions, but would show a lot more affection towards him too. Edward Eddie Wolfgang Munster is Herman and Lily's son, and a Dampier werewolf. He's played by Butch Patrick, and he can be heard howling quite often throughout the series. Born in 1956 and being the youngest member of the family, Eddie can sometimes be angry as well as short-tempered, but he's also just as friendly and kind. Although his father is a Frankenstein monster and his mother a vampire, Eddie is a werewolf owing to his maternal bloodline, whereas his uncle Lester is also a werewolf. The final member of the family is Marilyn Maureen Munster, the niece of Lily and Herman from one of her late sisters, a cousin of Eddie, and the granddaughter of Grandpa. The only member of the family who has been recast, she was played by Beverly Owen in the first 13 episodes and was then portrayed by Pat Priest for the rest of the series. Marilyn was adopted by the Munster couple in 1945 when she lost her parents as an infant. A kind and genuine girl, Marilyn is close to all her family members, especially Lily, with whom she enjoys the various shenanigans that Herman and Grandpa get up to. She attends Westbury College, and despite her attractive appearance by human standards, she's considered to be an ugly duckling by the Munsters because of her lack of monster-like appendages. Marilyn dates quite frequently, but usually none of the boyfriends last for very long, especially after the boys see Herman or Lily. This leads to the ongoing joke where Herman and Lily believe Marilyn's appearance to be responsible for her inability to hold onto a boyfriend, not realizing it's actually their monstrous appearances that scares everyone off. Exploring the hilarious adventures of the Munsters. The first episode of the Munsters, titled Munster Masquerade, begins with the black sheep of the family, Marilyn Munster, returning from her fourth date with her boyfriend Tom Daly, whom she invited back to the house to meet her uncle and aunt. Tom instead offers to invite her family to his family's masquerade party, which Marilyn quickly conveys to her uncle and aunt, much to their relief because they were also eager to get to know Tom. Later, upon seeing the couple's invitation, Grandpa too insists on being invited to the party, forcing Lily to ask Mrs. Daly about this, which she agrees to, but was also alarmed by Lily's description of Grandpa being 100 years old. On the night of the party, Marilyn dresses up as Priscilla, Lily as Little Bo Peep, and Herman as King Arthur in shining armour which hid his face inside the helmet, while Grandpa concocted a potion to get the look of Napoleon. At the party, upon Marilyn's request, Grandpa danced with Mrs. Daly but ended up making her uncomfortable with the talk of having 167 wives whom he visits on a daily basis. Mr. Daly, who had dressed up as Frankenstein's monster on the other hand, got offended by Herman not understanding the costume and pointed out how unfortunate it was that Mr. Daly didn't have a costume on at all. The shenanigans continue when Mrs. Daly and Grandpa meet up once again near the buffet table and she witnesses him eating burning charcoal instead of real food. Later, Herman is nominated for the best costume prize, and upon being insisted to remove his helmet, he secures the prize. But Lily feels insulted on Herman's behalf once another attendant pointed out that Herman was wearing one costume inside of another and ended up leaving the party with the family members. Meanwhile, the mansion, the youngest Munster, Eddie, was being babysat by Mrs. Morton, a human who had witnessed several strange occurrences, like a harp being played by itself, heard Eddie howling to the full moon, and even noticed the shadows and hearing the growls of Eddie's pet. Once the family had returned, Mrs. Morton didn't show any signs of being scared, except for being bothered by Eddie's unusual howling, but unbeknownst to her, Lily believed all young boys usually howled at full moons. Later, Lily and Herman discussed finding Tom's parents to be strange in the living room, while Marilyn was being dropped off by Tom. Upon Tom's insistence, Marilyn invited him inside for coffee, but Tom's happiness remained short-lived as he turned on the living room lights and discovered Lily and Herman's real appearances. Marilyn returns to find that she had ended up causing another one of her boyfriends to run away, only this time she was glad about it instead of feeling remorse. The second episode, titled My Fair Munster, continues the gag about another one of Marilyn's latest boyfriends, Jack, running away after seeing Herman. Worried about an upset Marilyn and the possible future of ending up alone, Herman insisted on Lily finding a way to help her. Soon enough, however, the couple are in an argument about why the responsibility should be falling on Lily, with Herman pointing out that Marilyn is on Lily's side of the family and that she's already tied up with the breadwinner of the family. To help Lily and Herman not be tied down by another responsibility, Grandpa took up the task of helping Marilyn and decided to create a love potion for her. Grandpa mixed the potion in with Marilyn's breakfast oatmeal, but unbeknownst to him, Marilyn left for college in a hurry and had no breakfast. This then led to Lily adding the oatmeal back into the cauldron to keep it hot, and ended up having it herself, along with a serving going to Herman and to Eddie. The love potion initially just heightened Herman and Lily's love for each other, but it soon reached a messy position once the mailman, Warren Bloom, became infatuated with Lily because of the potion. Meanwhile, in the back garden, the Munsters' neighbour, Yolanda Cribbins, became infatuated with Herman, even though she didn't really like him normally, after seeing him water the plants, and she begins to flirt with him. Warren the mailman became obsessive to the point of trying to kiss Lily, while Yolanda called Herman darling, making both of the Munsters uncomfortable and running back inside their house. Eddie too faced the effects of the love potion, as many young girls began to follow him back home when he returned away from school. Herman and Lily, though, concluded that they had faced the situation because of their irresistible Munster charms. Shortly thereafter, Grandpa arrived back to inform Lily that Warren had been standing outside the mansion singing for her, and decided to properly reject him, while also asking Herman to gently let down Yolanda because she had been calling for Herman every 10 minutes. However, much to Herman's surprise, Yolanda arrived at the house all dressed up and looking really good. Soon chaos ensues as the two Munsters are chased around the house by Yolanda and Warren, while Grandpa remains confused by the situation. Upon asking a recently arrived Marilyn, Grandpa realizes the issue of Yolanda and Warren being under the control of his love potion, but decided he wouldn't interfere because it was time for the effects to end soon anyway. When that happened, Yolanda was horrified and sprinted from the house as soon as the effects wore off, while Warren jumped outside the window to save himself. Both Herman and Lily remained oblivious to the whole thing, thinking that they were just successful in gently rejecting both parties. Once Grandpa revealed the actual story, Lily asked him to get rid of the oatmeal, which he did by throwing it into Yolanda's cabbage garden. Upon checking on Yolanda, Lily and Herman find out that the cabbage had caused her and Warren to fall in love with each other, with the Munster couple being frankly weirded out by the nicknames that they gave each other. In episode 6 of The Munsters, titled Low-Cal Munster, Herman tried on his old military uniform for a reunion that was going to be held in 10 days' time. But despite his best efforts, Herman failed to fit into the uniform properly. With everyone pointing out Herman having gotten fat and Lily not wanting to part with Herman, having not done so for over 100 years, Herman ended up throwing a temper tantrum to go to the reunion. Lily finally gave in to her husband's wishes, given that he put effort into losing weight, which is what Herman agreed to do, and decided to just stop eating until the reunion itself. Lily insists that Herman gets a physical examination done so that he could follow a proper diet and wouldn't fall sick. During the checkup, a series of hijinks ensues though, because Dr. Dudley was not able to see Herman properly due to his glasses being taken by the nurse. Upon getting back to glasses, Dr. Dudley ended up being shocked and fainted, breaking his table. Despite this, Herman gets back the results of his tests, but with the unusual pulse of 15, blood pressure -3, body temperature of 62.8, and no heartbeat. He was warned that he should lose 100 pounds immediately, or else he could die within a week. This, of course, made Herman more determined than ever to go on a strict diet of only water and vitamins, though Lily soon grew more concerned about his health and insisted he went to the reunion without wearing the uniform. Herman did not budge though. He maintained his determination with the occasional visit to the refrigerator in the middle of the night, which was foiled by Grandpa. Managing to reach the final day of his diet while struggling through Grandpa's taunts, Herman was dealt with a tough situation once he realised that it was Thanksgiving's Day, and he fainted at the thought of missing out on all the amazing food that came with it. Dr. Dudley was called to the house to check on Herman, but due to not being able to hear any heartbeat, he proclaimed Herman to be dead. But much to Dr. Dudley's horror, Herman soon woke up, causing the doctor to run away from the home scared. Thinking of additional methods that might help him refrain from eating in the final 24 hours, Herman received help from Grandpa, who strapped him to a table in his lab to prevent him from moving. The rest of the Munsters went out for a Thanksgiving's Day dinner so they wouldn't annoy Herman or tempt him with the smell of the food. Herman is left alone with only the television to give him company. It's not long before the TV proves to be Herman's undoing, as an advertisement promoting the Thanksgiving turkey came up, and this forces Herman to use brute strength to get out of the restraints and break the television. Frustrated and hungry, Herman made his way outside, breaking the mansion's entrance doorway and then the boundary wall. Herman found himself outside the dining room window of the Farber family, where he could see them starting into their Thanksgiving dinner. He was unable to control himself and forced his way into the house. With the whole Farber family terrified and cowering in a corner, Herman ended up ruining his diet by eating the dinner meant for the entire family. Much to the shock of the other Munsters, the next day, Herman appeared in front of them, fitting perfectly into his old uniform. But when an emotional Lily got close enough to hug him, she realised something was up, and upon opening his jacket, found Herman to be wearing her late mother's corset, which allowed him to finally appear fit despite having chugged down all that food the day before. In episode 17, titled All-Star Munster, Herman returns home from work to find Lily and Grandpa worried about a crying Marilyn. Upon asking, they find out that Marilyn had been asked not to return to college due to her pending tuition fees. Checking if the payment had been made or not, Lily found a gross error on her part which caused the situation. Despite Grandpa's insistence, Herman offered to visit the college himself and sort out the problem. At Westbury College, where Marilyn studied, Herman was trying to look for the dean's office, and he came across Coach Roger Denman, who mistook him for a college basketball recruit, Moose Mallory. It didn't help that Herman's below-average intelligence and his build, which helped him to become natural in basketball, matched Moose's description perfectly. Impressed by Herman's skill and still believing him to be Moose, Coach Roger ended up asking him to sign the scholarship contract, which Herman did, believing the papers were to help clear Marilyn's tuition issues. Once the real Moose Mallory arrived at the coach's office with his father, Coach Roger finally noticed Herman's signature, and instead of correcting the mistake, he rejected Moose and announced Herman to be the new basketball recruit, with his actual name in the newspaper. Back at the Munsters' residence, the news quickly reached them as Eddie arrived with a newspaper, making everyone realise that Herman didn't solve Marilyn's problems, but had instead created a whole new one just for himself. Moose and his father also arrive at the mansion in a bid to fix the mishap that happened, but found themselves liking the Munster family quite a lot. Herman thus made his way to Coach Roger again to fix the issue with the scholarship, but this was met with disappointment once the coach refused to cancel his contract, instead offering him a convertible and some money under the table. This didn't last long though, as once Herman's tantrum started, he unintentionally ended up banging the coach's desk to the ground with ease, scaring the coach and making him rip up the contract. Meanwhile, at the Munster mansion, Moose and his father were impressed by the family's modern possessions and even aspired to be like them. Sometime later, the Munster family heard a radio announcement about Moose helping his team gain 15 straight wins and taking his team to the basketball championship finals. Marilyn arrived to bid goodbye to the family as she was going on a date with Moose, which surprised the family, but not as much as noticing that the scholarship student Moose apparently now owned a brand new convertible car. With the Munsters getting into various adventures owing to them being monsters, the series ran for a total of 70 episodes and one special. The final adventure saw them being visited by Eddie's school teacher and principal, who, after reading an essay about the Munsters, arrived to the mansion to observe the family. Initially not believing what Eddie had written, they were in for a scary awakening once they realised that the Munsters were quite different from the average American family. Meanwhile, Grandpa made two more new inventions, one to store electricity from the light bulbs and another to create his own water supply. As usual, both inventions failed to work properly, instead causing problems. The Munsters emerged as the top 18th show of 1964-65 TV season because of its ratings, and it tied with Gilligan's Island. But the following season saw a huge collapse for the Munsters to the 61st position after a brief heyday. This was due to tough competition from NBC's Daniel Boone, which was in colour and thus growing in ratings rapidly. Despite the failing price of colour for TV broadcast, changing the Munsters sets and makeup to appear properly in colour was money that the network refused to invest. Around mid-season, ABC showed some major rating improvements by including several new all-colour shows to its schedule. In 1966, ABC launched its live-action Batman series, which was shown twice a week and became a ratings hit, and that gave the Munsters quite tough competition. It was also reported by various sources that Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster, had also become disenchanted by his role and wanted to leave the show, to the point that he expressed gratitude towards Batman for helping the show to get cancelled. A few other reasons also speculated as to why the show couldn't find buyers for syndication, and the premise of the series grew stale as well after grinding and repeating the same ideas for over 70 episodes. However, the series overall found major success later once it managed to find syndication runs on independent stations. Popularity and significance of the Munsters. The casting of the Munsters was nothing short of just perfect. The 6'5" Fred Gwynne portrayed the kind-hearted and simple-minded Herman Munster to perfection, while Yvonne De Carlo as his wife Lily, the emotional compass of the series, was incredibly sweet. And Al Lewis, even though playing the straight man grandpa, was ridiculously hilarious. Fred and Al had worked together earlier on and had a tried and tested comedy relationship, which was often compared to great comedy pairs like Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello. Each actor fit so perfectly into their part that their chemistry would easily make children, as well as adults, fall in love with them. A particular reason for the show resonating with its audience as a comedy was the perspective of the family never understanding the reactions that people had towards them. To the Munsters, they were perfectly normal people, and it was other people, normal people, who had those reactions while they were strange. This helped in making the most ordinary interactions come off as quite funny, along with the already well-written gags. Despite the show being in black and white and the settings being in the 1960s, the Munsters have hardly aged. Even today, the series holds up because of its physical slapstick gags and witty yet funny dialogue, such as, "For every silver cloud, there's a dark lining." Despite a few corny moments, which of course remind the viewers that the Munsters is a product of its time, it still manages to capture pure innocence and comedy at its finest. Marvelous verdict. Sometimes, ignorance is bliss, and what you believe in is exactly what makes you special. This rang true for the Munsters. The Munster family may have been a family of monsters in their world, but to the viewers, they are exactly the normal and loving American family that they believed themselves to be. With every episode, the love and the care that the members held for each other was proven true, and even though they remained ambivalent to the world around them, the viewers would cheer them on. It's because of this that the late actors Fred Gwynne, Al Lewis and Yvonne De Carlo still live on through their characters of Herman, Grandpa and Lily Munster, even decades after the show had been cancelled. For a classic horror-era fan, The Munsters is definitely a must-watch, especially if you've already explored the Addams Family. And by the way, if you like our content, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, thank you very much, have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.